as the excitement for the goats continue in Zimbabwe, there are questions that we could be asking, and I've come up with a few questions that we could try to answer. How can we turn the goat phenomenon into something which can actually help the country? I know some people have already become tired of discussing goats. There's so many pictures that are coming up, so many funny stuff, so much funny stuff, memes and all that. But there are serious questions that we could be asking. And some of the questions I've come up with include the following. For example, do we know how many goats there are in Zimbabwe? If you do a simple Google search, you don't get a result, okay? Which means that is something, maybe someone knows how many goats we have. Do we have maybe 100,000 goats? Maybe 1 million? How many goats do we have? If each household can have, say, 10 goats, and there is, let's say, 1 million people have goats, then we're looking at maybe 10 or more million goats, okay? I don't know what the figure is, so don't quote me on that one. It could be a lot more than that, but definitely we know that they reproduce quite quickly, and we also know that an average family will have more than one goat, okay? They'll probably have 10 or more, or 15, 20. Okay, so what is the total value of all the goats in Zimbabwe? If we know how many they are, then what is their total value? Because if we know the value, then we can talk about how much the goats are worth to the economy. Okay, how can we incorporate goats into the mainstream economy? One of the ways was the one suggested where you're paying for services using your goats. So if you're doing that, you've actually brought the goats into the mainstream economy because they've attained a value that you can associate with something that you need to do, something which is important to all Zimbabweans, which is getting children educated. I know we all want our kids to do very well, so allowing parents with no money but with goats to pay their school fees in the form of goats is one way of bringing the goats into the mainstream economy. But we know that the implementation of such a mechanism is something that this government is not capable of doing. We've seen it with many other examples. So at the end of the day, it's not just about the goats, okay? How about chickens? How many chickens do we have? I'll give you an example. It is difficult in the UK to buy a chicken from a neighbor, okay, or from some unregistered person. Every chicken that you buy, the government knows about it. So every chicken that you buy, even a chicken wing, okay, you're paying tax on the chicken wing. You're paying tax on everything that you buy, because everything is, they've set up structures where you cannot do anything outside of the economy. There are still some things you can do. You can do a side job. Mechanics can change your tire and you can pay them on the spot. But it's really difficult to do anything which is outside of the mainstream economy. So it's not just about the goats, okay? We can talk about chickens. We can talk about cattle. How many cattle do we have in Zimbabwe? What are they worth? How many donkeys do we have? How much are they worth? What about wild fruit? Can we collect wild fruit? How many trees do we have? Okay. What about minerals? Like how much gold and diamonds do we have? We know some of those statistics are closely guarded secret by those who want to make sure that they are the only beneficiaries of these natural resources. But at least we could, if we knew how much gold and diamonds we had, if we knew how much platinum and other minerals we had, then we can work out how much that is worth to the economy. Do you know how much our GDP would change just by incorporating these things, just by knowing the figures? Quite a lot. What about human resources? How much are we worth? How much are those graduates worth who are sitting at home doing nothing? How much are they worth? Okay. When they apply for jobs outside the country, they get jobs. That means they are worth something, and then they are paid something by the new employers. So they are worth something, but we don't know how much they are worth. We don't know how many they are. We know the figures coming out of universities, but we know people are going in and out. So exactly how many graduates do we have in Zimbabwe right now, and what are they worth? And those graduates who've left the country and were working outside the country, how much money are they sending home every month? Okay, at least we've got some figures there. At one point, the diaspora remittances was averaging about 2/3 of our entire budget. Okay, so our budget was about 4 billion, and we were remitting more than 2.5 billion per year. So that's quite significant. Okay, so you can see the worth. Now imagine if more graduates were to leave, okay, under a special government arrangement, and then they were paying some kind of tax to the government. That's something that if the government had a relationship, a good relationship with the diaspora, then there are so many things. I'm going to talk about this in a different video, but there are so many things that the government could be doing with the diaspora community if the relationship with the diaspora was anything but what it is now. Okay, so how can we leverage everything, or the value of everything, for economic growth and development? How can we take the value of goats, the value of chickens, cattle, donkeys, wild fruit, trees, minerals such as gold and diamonds and platinum, our human resources? How can we take all of this and leverage it for economic growth and development? And lastly, how can we turn debt capital, because that's what it is. If we don't know what we have, if we cannot count our own resources, then it's as good as debt capital, because it's no use to the economy as it is. So how can we turn debt capital into active participants, or into active capital for the economy to grow? Okay, so unemployed graduates are just as good as debt capital, because they are not contributing anything to the economy. But we can talk about, in a separate video, we can talk about how the graduates can actually spur economic growth and development by becoming entrepreneurial. Okay, because like Tribe Masiwa has been saying, Africa needs an explosion of entrepreneurship. And with so many problems that we have in Zimbabwe and in Africa, okay, each and every one of those problems is actually a big opportunity for entrepreneurship. Okay, every problem is an opportunity to make money. So every problem, if you can come up with a solution, then you can get paid for it. Okay, so we should approach each and every problem as an economic opportunity, and that way it doesn't matter what sort of problem it is. Okay, there's always an economic opportunity. There's always some entrepreneurial venture that we can go into to solve that problem and get paid for it. Okay, so I just wanted to add a little bit more on what we can do, on what sort of questions we can ask, and these questions are inspired by the goat phenomenon. Okay, thank you for listening.